In this project, you guys are going to be doing the design and label aspect of the project. And then this part, this is where you start kind of giving yourself a little blueprint of what you want this roller coaster to kind of seem or look like. But as you're doing a blueprint, blueprints have details. Think about the blueprint of a house. If I gave you a picture of a house and say, go build it, there's going to be some missing key details, such as how many feet is the ceiling going to be from the ground? How many feet is it going to be from one wall to another wall? Right? All that kind of aspect matters when you're creating something. In this project, you're going to be creating an ideology of a roller coaster. You're going to be designing and labeling. The labeling part is the details. The designing part is the actual drawing. So you're putting both. So for example, here's my example, right? So I'm going to start off with them, whoever my audience is. I might say my audience is children from the age of 16 all the way to whatever age, from 16 and up. That's my audience. It's important that you have an audience because it gives you a generalized idea. It gives you a generalized idea of how you're going to go about creating that roller coaster. Because if you're designing a roller coaster that's like 50 feet off the ground, you have to think about the little kids who are like 6 years old that might get on that because you didn't have an audience. Okay? So my audience is going to be about 16 and up. And I want them to start, like, they're going to climb up here. Here's the little staircase, right? And they're going to get on this platform. Here is the starting point. It's important that you know where your roller coaster ride is going to start. Don't just throw it anywhere. Right? So the starting point is important because the starting point should include how many feet off the ground are all these people going to be? And what is the speed they're going to be going through to go from point A to point B? Okay? Now, when they're traveling 10 meters per second, what's going to happen next? So this is point A to point B. From point B to point C, they're going to go down a drop. And this is going to be their point C. Now, I'm going to talk about point B to point C. Point B being riders are going to experience free fall. How many feet are they dropping? They're going to be going 50 feet all the way to, because here's the ground, right? 50 feet all the way to maybe, let's say, 10 feet. So a difference of 40 feet. And they're going to be moving, well, they started at 10 meters per second, so they're going to be moving, maybe if they're doing free fall, I want to say maybe 100 and, no, not maybe 100, maybe let's say 80 meters per second at free fall. Right? And that's part of that key detail. They're going to be experiencing free fall at this feet, and it's going to take them a time of maybe 3 seconds to go from point B to point C. The reason why we're labeling it this way is because if I ask you, okay, let's go into kinematics for a second. What is the final position from point A to point C? Right? We know where the starting position is at 50 feet. What would be the final? And you'll be able to utilize your equation XF equals blah, 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 blah to find that. But you are giving yourselves the numbers to do that. You are the ones coming up with those numbers because it's your roller coaster. For point C to point D, now we have a little hill. What are riders going to be experiencing from point C to point D? What is their experience? They might be feeling a sense of heaviness because they're climbing up a hill. They might be slowing down from 80 meters per second to maybe, let's say, 50 meters per second because they're climbing up. You know, you're just kind of creating this idea, kind of putting it together. Does that make sense so far? Yeah. Okay. However many points that you want to have, that's fine with you. If you want to go from A to Z, I'm okay with that. But make sure that you have the requirements. And the requirements are on that PowerPoint that I posted. So make sure you have these requirements though, right? At least have like 2 hills or so. Have loop, have a banking turn, straight path, a starting point, an ending point, a drop, some kind of free fall drop. Because we're going to be applying kinematics into this idea. Kind of like when we did, you drop something off a building, how high is the building? So we're going to be applying kinematics, dynamics, and uniform or circular motion in this project. That's why I said this project is going to be worth a lot. And this project is going to be your study guide as well for your test. So be ready for that. I also posted ideas of other art, right? The labeling aspect and the drawing aspect.
On the slides, right?
Yep, on the slides. So you have some basic idea. Notice how in every single point there's something being written. So remember, there's always a different point. From one point to another, you're creating those points. So from point A to point B, what's happening? Tell me as much detail as you can. Because if you're giving me this blueprint and saying, Miss E, go create it, go build it, here's the art of it, I want to be able to know what in the world am I doing? How high am I building the first stop? How big is the loop? What's the radius? Are they going to be able to even get through the loop? Because if you didn't give me the radius, I don't know how big it is. Because if there's no radius, then there's no diameter. So how big is that loop? Because that loop ties into centripetal force, which is what we're going to be applying as well. So the whole point is to put it together in parts. Make sure you give a radius when it comes to the loops. Make sure you have those point systems. Make sure you have how high, how fast, how long, what's the distance, all those aspects. Because if I'm building it and you don't give me those important information, I might create trash. It's like building a house. If you tell me you want to mention, but then tell me how big your rooms need to be. If you tell me that, like, okay, I want you to create this house, Miss E, but you don't tell me how big the rooms are going to be. It can only fit one person. I can decide, I'm going to make it fit only one person. If you want a master bedroom, but then tell me how big you want it to be, it's not going to be a master bedroom. I promise you that. So those numbers matter. Keep that in mind. They matter.